Hello students, today we shall start with a new topic, that is functions. How can we use functions in C programming language? So first of all we will see the different types of C functions. C functions can be classified into two categories, namely library functions and user-defined functions. So in C programming languages, there are two types of function. One is the library function and other is the user-defined function. The functions which are written by the programmer or the user are known as user-defined functions. In a C program, we write the main function. So main becomes the user-defined function. Printf and scanf belong to the category of library functions. That are functions which are previously made for us, which are ready-made in the C programming languages, are the library functions. So we directly use them in our program. So for example, printf function and scanf function, which we use for output and input, are ready-made for us. No need for the user or the programmer to type the program for printf and scanf. So we say that printf and scanf are library functions. The main distinction between these two categories is that library functions are not required to be written by us, whereas a user-defined function has to be developed by the user at the time of writing a program. Every program must have a main function to indicate where the program has to begin its execution. We have already seen in the structure of a C program that the program execution starts from the main function. If a program is divided into functional parts, then each part may be independently coded and later combined into a single unit. These independently coded programs are called subprograms that are much easier to understand, debug and test. So the small programs which we code or which we write the program for are known as subprograms. These subprograms, when we bring together, become one program. In C, such subprograms are referred to as functions. These subprograms or these functions cannot be independently executed. They have to be brought together in the main function. There are times where certain type of operation or calculation are repeated at many times throughout a program. So there may be some statements in the program, some operations or calculations in the program that need to be executed a number of times. In such situation, we may repeat the program statements wherever they are needed. So we can write a separate function or a subprogram, and then we will use that subprogram or that function wherever we need to repeat the program statements. Another approach is to design a function that can be called and used whenever required. This saves both time and space. A function. So now we shall define a function, or what is a function. A function is a self-contained block of code that performs a particular task. So this is the definition of a function. A function is a group of statements that perform a specific task. The use of functions in a program provides modularity, easy error detection and correction in the program. So whenever there are any errors in the program, we can no need of directly checking the whole program. we will only go to that particular module or that particular subprogram or function in which we are getting an error. So error detection and correction becomes easy. The functions provided by the C compiler are called built-in functions. So previously which we have seen, that is the library functions, are also known as built-in functions. So this is all about the introduction of functions. Next we will see the important point, that is elements of user-defined functions. There are three important elements of an user-defined functions which we have to include in our C program when we use functions. So the first element is function definition, second function call, and third function declaration. We shall discuss each of this element in detail. So previously we shall see the function definition is an independent program module that is specially written to implement the requirements of the function. So what is function definition? It is an independent program module. We are going to separately write this subprogram or a small program that is specially written to implement the requirements of the function. Remember that each function will do only one intended task. In order to use this function, we need to invoke it at a required place in the program. This is known as the function call. So this is the second important element, that is function call. The program that calls the function is referred to as calling program or calling function. The calling program should declare any function that is to be used later in the program. This is known as function declaration or function prototype. So this is the third important element of a program when we are using functions. So first function definition, second function call, and third function prototype or function declaration. Now we shall see an example in which I have used a function. So this is a program to calculate the total of marks of a student in two subjects. So the first statement, that is the element of the function, that is function declaration or function prototype. We have to declare the function which we are going to use. So now here you can see that int add int comma int. This is a function declaration. This statement tells the compiler that I am going to use a function whose name is add. It will take two values and the values will be of data type integer, and it is going to give us a result of type integer. So with this one statement, the C compiler will understand that the user is going to use one function whose name is going to be add. It is going to take two inputs of type integer and it is going to give an output of type integer. So this is the function declaration. Now we have our main function or our main program. We are going to use three variables: m1 to store marks of one subject, m2 to store the marks of second subject, and sum to store the total. Let the marks of first subject be 80 and the second subject be 90. Now I am going to use a user defined function add to calculate the total of these two marks. So here this statement is the function call. Okay, sum is equal to add m1 comma m2. This add is the user defined function. I am going to give two inputs. So m1 is one input and m2 is the second input. This add function is going to calculate the total of these two marks. With this statement, the control will jump from here to this statement where there is a function call add. The value stored in M1 will go in psi and the value stored in M2 will go in math. So now psi is equal to 80 and math is equal to 90. Now with this curly bracket I enter the subprogram. Integer result is equal to 0. Result is equal to psi plus math, that is 80 plus 90. So that is 170. So 170 value is stored in variable result and return result. So return means it will go back where there was a function call, and what it is going to return, the value stored, that is 170. So now this whole statement will get replaced with 170. So now what will be the new meaning? Sum is equal to 170. So printf total marks is equal to 170, get ch and end of the program. Here where we have written the actual statements is known as the function definition. So this is how we are going to write a program by using functions. In this program I have used only one user defined function. You can use as many functions as you want, but for each function it is compulsory to have a function declaration, a function call and a function definition. Next we'll see each element in detail. First element is definition of a function or function definition. A function definition, also known as function implementation, shall include the following elements. So what elements are included in definition of the function? Function name, function type, list of parameters, local variable declaration, function statements and a return statement. You have seen in the previous example over here, this is the function definition. You have the function name, you have the function type, list of parameters, local variable declaration, function statements and a return statement. So this add is the function name, this integer is the function type, this is the list of parameters. Here I have used a variable result is the local variable declaration. This statement which calculates the total is the function statement, and the last, which every function it is compulsory, is a return statement. So these are the 6 elements which are grouped together as a function definition. All the 6 elements are grouped into 2 parts, namely function header and function body. So we can see over here the format of a function definition: function type, function name, parameter list. No semicolon is given over here. Remember that no semicolon is given over here. If you give a semicolon, compiler will not give you an error message, but your program's output will be wrong. So this is opening of the function and this is closing of the function. This first statement is known as the function header, and whatever is included in this curly brackets is known as the function body. So the function body consists of local variable declarations, some executable statements, and at last the return statement. So this is the function header and this is the function body. So we shall first see the function header. The function header consists of 3 parts: the function type, also known as the return type, the function name and the formal parameter list. Semicolon is not used at the end of the function header. Second is name and type. The function type specifies the type of value that the function is expected to return to the program calling the function. So I have told you previously what result will be given back by the function, or what output will be given back by the function is known as the function type. If the return type is not explicitly specified, C will assume that it is an integer type. So if you don't specify the return type, by default the compiler will take it as a type integer. If the function is not returning anything, then we need to specify the return type as void. If you don't specify the return type, compiler will take it by default integer. But suppose if your function is not returning anything, then we have to specify it as type void. The function name is any valid C identifier and therefore must follow the same rules of formation as other variables in C. Okay. Next is the formal parameter list. The parameter list declares the variables that will receive the data sent by the calling program. They serve as the input data to the function to carry out the specified task. Since they represent actual input values, they are often referred to as formal parameters. So the parameters which we specify in the function header in the round brackets are known as formal parameters. The parameters are also known as arguments. So another word for parameters is arguments. The parameter list contains declaration of variables separated by commas and surrounded by parentheses. A function need not always receive values from the calling program. Now this is all about function header. Next we'll move on to function body. The function body contains the declarations and statements necessary for performing the required task. The body enclosed in braces contains three parts. So the first is local declarations that specify the variables needed by the function. So in the previous example we had taken res, that is the result is the local declaration. Function statements that perform the task of the function, that is we had taken result is equal to psi plus math, that is the function statement. And at last a return statement that returns the value evaluated by the function. So the definition of a function contains the code that performs the intended task which is included in this function body. And the last part of the function definition is the return value and their types. A function may or may not send back any value to the calling function. While it is possible to pass to the called function any number of values, the called function can only return one value per call at the most. So this is the most important point to be remembered, that when a function is giving back an output, it can give only one value at a time. So how we can use a return statement? If it is returning some output, we are going to write return and the output variable name as an expression. If your function is not returning anything, just give an empty brackets. When a return is encountered, the control is immediately passed back to the calling function. Next we'll see the second element of the function, which is function call. A function can be called by using the function name followed by a list of actual arguments. So in the example we have seen that sum is equal to add in brackets m1 comma m2 is the function call. When the compiler encounters a function call, the control is transferred to the function. Invoking or calling a function means executing the code of a function from a program. So here is the format of a function call. The variable name which is going to store the value which will be given back or which will be the output of the function equal to name of the function, and if you want to pass any inputs that are known as actual parameter list, and it will be ended with a semicolon. The data type of a variable must be similar to the data type of the function return. That is, what type of value will be given back to this by this function, the data type of that and the data type of this variable should be the same. So we have seen here example, sum is equal to add m1 comma m2. So this is all about the second element of the function, that is function call. Thank you.